Bonesso.
Hola.
Man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Dude, man, like what a couple years it's been with the pandemic and coming out of it now. I mean, I went to the office last week, but now I'm kind of going back to home like, ooh, this is pretty nice, and kind of curious how your life has been there with Casey at home and what it's been like for you.
Yeah, man, I'd say, it's a little bit of it's been obviously like everybody else, I'm sure it's been a roller coaster. It is really, really nice to wake up in the morning and just be like, well, I guess I have to just walk across the apartment to sit in my desk. And then the next day you wake up and say, wow, this sucks. I have to walk across the apartment and sit in my desk, so yeah, it's a little mixed bag. But now Casey, my wife, goes in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is a great, setup for her. And then I go in Tuesdays and Thursdays and kind of alternate between. But yeah, overall, I mean, we've had our anxious moments, and we've had moments of like, when the fuck is this going to end? But, overall, I think it's been good for our relationship just to be able to say like, well, we can exist together.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the deep stuff hopefully later, but I mean, you said the word anxious. Like, I find myself anxious sometimes during the day where I feel like my manager is hoping that I'll respond quicker on Slack, or if there's an email I need to respond to, like, and I think that lack of office culture can create that almost like artificial anxiety. I really doubt that my manager is sitting in his bed at night saying like, oh, Nick didn't respond within the time I wanted him to, and he got to me a couple hours after, right? But there's a lot around work and hybrid work and what this new reality is for a lot of us people that are blessed to have work where we can sit in front of a computer in America. And maybe we can talk about that later in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm very down. I mean, it's something that, I've definitely been grateful for, in terms of, not only being in an industry kind of like yourself where it's digital and it's not going anywhere, being logistics, but also being able to have a role that, can be done online and effectively in that sense. So.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about online, the internet, memes, you're someone that has worked in digital marketing. Yeah. You've always loved the internet, I know, and I share that same passion. If it is a passion, Reddit, news, YouTube, there's just a wealth of information and it's entertainment online. So with most of these conversations, we'll suss out sort of personal development, motivation, like what makes Will tick. That's why I'm on this call with you. But I want to start from the beginning, right? Like, you were born in New York. I know you have a really solid group of friends there. You're close with your family. Tell me more about what it was like to grow up there, about that friend group and the bond you guys have, and maybe even your family if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So, originally from Greenlawn, New York. It's on the North Shore of Long Island. And the funny thing is that, growing up on Long Island, I loved Long Island and I hated New York City. Anytime we would go, my parents were not big city people, so anytime we would go, we'd always go to, the Statue of Liberty, or we would go to Times Square, or just every tourist trap you can think of. I was really not a fan of it, because like every time I'd go, it was just way too many people, and it was dirty.
Yeah.
And then I got to experience it over, becoming an adult and shit like that, and I love it so much. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think my family has always been a major part of my life. I try to go home at least once every 3 months to visit them now. But they're great. I have a little brother who's super intelligent.
Nut.
Yeah, big nut. And he is actually graduating from law school in 2 weeks.
Good for him. I didn't know that.
He's a number of years younger than me, but he's a smart kid. He's a assertive motherfucker. But he's great. My parents have always been super, super supportive, super great overall. And yeah, I mean, my friends, I love to death. I mean, they're, going to be the aunts and uncles to my kids like you are. It's just at the end of the day, I I met a lot of them just through chance encounters. I mean, I met Kachin, who, I've known the longest, along with my other buddy Ryan, through health class and laughing at the fat old white guy talking about reproductive health.
And that's in high school?
Yeah, middle school.
Okay. So you were like
sixth,
12, 13.
Yeah, like sixth grade. Just talking about that. And then I made friends with my buddy Ryan in eighth grade when we traded Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That kid still plays in competitive leagues today, which is very hilarious. I love it. But we were all just kind of, I don't want to say misfits, but we weren't the coolest kids ever. And, I think we all had a shared love for epic movies, dumb shit, like video games, sports in its own way, and just making each other laugh. So that's always been a real core bond with that, as I know you've seen.
Yeah.
Somebody is dating. There's a girl who's dating another member of my group of friends, and she summed up our relationship pretty well. She goes, "All you guys really do is stand in a circle. Someone quotes a movie, and then each one of you tries to one up each other by either saying another quote from the same movie or saying the same quote in a different voice." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty close." So.
Yeah, I've actually always admired that friend group because I remember when I was 12, 13, I just used to like belly laugh with my friends and just the dumbest shit, like movie quotes or like that teacher that's just this is a ridiculous situation. Like, and if I told you these stories now, it's like, why is that funny? But when I think of like this person in the parking lot trying to pick up her daughter, my friend and I heard her just go, blah.
It's stupid as shit, but it's
so
fun.
Stupid. And I don't care who hears that. I don't even care if anyone gets it, but me and this specific friend, like, it's so cool that you're able to kind of bring that over and do through college, even though they didn't all go to Marquette with you, to adulthood. They were at your wedding, and it was awesome seeing Kachin, Glenn, Feeney, and everyone.
I mean, I know more about Glenn's. I mean, there's like no holds barred either. I know more about Glenn's medical history than HIPAA does. I mean, my God. So.
Yeah. I remember going to New York to visit you for Governor's Ball in 2016, and you were living in Brooklyn. And you had to get to your room. You had to go through one of your friends' rooms.
Yeah.
Classic New York story.
New York living, man. Yeah.
And I think Glenn lived with you at that point, right?
Yeah, he did. And he was, that was also the saga where he was convinced that he had black mold in his stealing. So he paid a guy $450 to check. And the guy spent 5 minutes in there. He goes, "Yeah, you don't have black mold. There's just like rust up there." And Glenn was like, "Oh, all right. Well, I guess I know now." But oh man, we ragged on him forever about that. But it's stuff like that. It's like, hopefully black mold doesn't get you this time, Glenn. Stuff like that.
I mean, and I've done things in my career to be more and more successful, however you want to define that, with like promotions or like just different stuff. But what I find is what is really fulfilling is love and relationships.
Yeah.
And the people that I love in my life. I mean, I went to Dallas, I was there for a little bit before you and I got close, and I was just lonely there. The people here in Chicago, I just miss them. I just miss the love that we all shared together. So again, I not envy, but I really see the value of you and your closest childhood friends, and so glad to have you in our immediate network here in Chicago.
Yeah, thanks, man. Same here. I mean, it's very, there's a different element to our group, as you know, but like it just feels just as, pretty much just as close, and everybody just feeds off one another when we are together, which is how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, you and Casey have been married for 2 years now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, Garrison's getting married. Perk has a serious girlfriend. I have a serious girlfriend. I think it's obvious to say that we don't get together quite as much. And if we do, maybe it's more like a planned thing, but that might just be getting older too. Like we all have our lives and our people and our jobs and everything. So glad that you understand what I'm saying with the love and the bonding thing. Okay. So thinking of New York, I think of you in that 2016 apartment. I think of the Chive. I think of you getting started in digital marketing and some of the ridiculous stories you would tell me about some of your bosses, the ego in the creative industries. Kind of curious if you care to relive that trauma. Talk to me more about those situations where like, it was like, what the fuck is happening? Oh, I can't believe this is so happening in this way. And maybe a good situation at the Chive or whatever, if you have any, things that you prepared.
Yeah, I think, the Chive was really something. We did some cool stuff there, but it was also just wacky in terms of some of the, just some of the interpersonal, interactions and the overall culture. I mean, they had a slide in the main office, down in Austin. And whenever I'd go there, people would literally just take the slide down from one floor to another, like a physical one. And then, I think it was I was there for work stuff, but it was like a Monday. It was a Monday afternoon, like 4 p.m. And the founder, one of the founders, got on the intercom and was like, "All right, fuckers, put your pens down. It's time to drink. It's 4 p.m. and it's time for happy hour." It's like, wow, that's great. But I mean, it's very different from where I was before, which was a very established company with, newspapers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, just in terms of some of the experiences that I had there, I mean, I'll start with a good one. I mean, we had a really great opportunity to work across a lot of different brands. There was one sports brand that we worked with. It was kind of in the realm of like the ESPNs and the Sports Illustrated and stuff like that, where they basically came to us and they were like, "We're pretty tired of all of the just advertising on all the standard sports websites or like kind of bro websites." And for those who don't know, the Chive is the number one. It was at the time the number one procrastination website. So you could find pretty much anything you're looking for there, whether it's like weird listicles, like quizzes, hot girls, stuff like that. But like they basically said, we've done all the traditional routes of doing videos and doing game recaps and breakdowns. Like, what's a weird idea that you guys have? So our team put our heads together and we came up with kind of like a prop bet experience. This was back in, I think, 2016 or 17, before like betting got super, super big, and super mainstream, I'd say. So it was fun. I mean, that was a really cool triumph that we had. We won the business, and basically the whole setup was like, it was the NBA playoffs. So it was, if Steph Curry hits 4 threes and somebody bet under that, for a quarter, and then somebody bet over it, the loser would have to take a shot of Tabasco, and people would bet, and people would put wagers down. Like they were fake wagers because we really couldn't play that way with the brand. But we were connected to, the Chive had a charity, organization, and we were able to build out, carve out a number of funds that we could donate toward a cause that worked with the company that we were working with. So it was really cool to see the full court, NBA full court press, in terms of like not only having fun with it in a weird way that, you can talk about, stats and game recaps all you want, but the prop betting thing where somebody gets to, one of the guys had to run through a wall. Like it was like a drywall, pretty thin, but still hilarious. And yeah, it ended up just being a really good overall experience. And then
that's cool. They trusted you to create new creative and like actually run with it. Okay.
Yeah.
A pretty big brand. I'm sure they're making multiples of millions annually in ad sales and sponsorships, right? And they're just like, okay, you guys are a bunch of 25-year-old creative kids. Like, give me something new, and it worked. Or you guys kind of were the inception of, before it was legal, some sort of a prop bet situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool just because, I mean, again, I think for that company, it was, the money that we got was probably a drop in the bucket for their budget. But still, I mean, they took a chance and they were like, yeah, screw it. Give this a whirl. This is a cool idea. And ended up doing really well.
Yeah. Got to A/B test it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which Tabasco sauce works best.
Yeah.
But I mean, shifting to some other, experiences. I mean, it's insane how, the companies that you do work with at times, you come in with a thought like, some of these stories very well, but a certain yogurt company I worked with, it's a yogurt company. What on earth are they worried? I mean, they turned out to be some of the most vicious people I've ever worked with. They were just like, I mean, there were multiple times where I had a team of 4 under me working on media plans for 19 different brands under their umbrella.
Yep.
And we would work on media plans. We'd send them over. They would be like, "This doesn't look right. Please pressure check this." What the hell does that mean? That's not real feedback. It's just. But so at the end of the day, it was really tough to be able to navigate some of those conversations and that discussion. And I as frustrating as a client as they were, I give them a lot of credit, and I appreciate how much I was able to grow from that, from being able to say, listen, this is how we run. This is how we recommend it. This is how we would run it. If you guys don't like that, then that's fine. We can go back to the drawing board, but we need more tangible feedback than what you're giving us.
Yeah. What does pressure check mean? Like, do some sort of like litmus test on how people would receive it, or like, it just almost sounds like a power move where someone's like replying all to like 8 people and they're like, this will make me look really good. Like pressure checked it.
Yeah, exactly. And there were definitely people like that, but I spent a lot of late nights working on yogurt. There were many instances in Q4 where we'd be up until 12:30 at night working on stuff. But those are, as much adversity was there and frustration. I mean, you learned a lot from it.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that was Social Code, was it?
It was.
Yeah. And then you went from there to now Coyote, or was there a stop between there?
Yep, I'm at Coyote now.
Nice.
So, they're great.
What kind of spurred that change, and what's it like changing industries? You're still doing marketing, right? But it's logistics.
So it's interesting. That's a good question. I think one of the things I thought of immediately was that I have been on the publisher side. I went to the agency side with Social Code, and then I saw this opportunity with a really great, especially local, like Chicago brand in Coyote, and just noticed how strong they were from just a culture standpoint, and also from their presence within the logistics space. And I mean, I was looking to try something different that wasn't just strictly, okay, here's a book of business. Here are the different priorities for each business in the book. Handle all of them, work across things. I really liked the ability here to be able to sink my teeth in and say, this is everything we work with. I can be an expert on all of these things, and I know exactly how to promote them. And then once you have that good basis, you can do a lot of creative stuff off that, which is really cool. So
I didn't think about what you said about publishing to agency side. Like they're so cool to think of it that way. And I think that's kind of like the crux of the podcast is like, how do you keep growing your skill set? Like last episode, I had Herbst on PR, right? Like that kid knows unreal things about PR, like the unreal amounts about PR. With me, I'm trying to do that with tech sales or just tech in general. I'll probably never be like the person looking at like CapEx and, looking at different businesses and trying to invest, but I know a lot about revenue in tech businesses. And and if we took this over and like put it in the context of like weightlifting, right? I wanted to ask you about that too. Like I learned how to basically do compound lifting last summer. And some days I'll do back and up and then upper. And then some days I'll do legs. Some days I'll do arms and chest. Right. And like the whole last year has almost been like a learning on the basis. Like I started with the foundation. I've gotten my body now to be strong enough, and now I can start working some of the more like accessory muscles. But that's kind of how I look at it, is like consistently learning more about weightlifting. But wanted to ask you more about that and like other parts of your life, whether it's work or video games or jokes or whatever, where you just kind of like compound your knowledge of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a work perspective, being able to compound knowledge, just it's cliche as hell, but like you just being able to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And another thing is just taking things one step at a time. I had a boss at Social Code who she and I did not see eye to eye all the time, but I love her to death because she taught me so much about how to grow myself. And I was a terrible public speaker. I was terrified of speaking, terrified of being able to answer questions like on the fly and stuff like that. And through her tutelage, basically just saying, write the entire paragraph on a slide, of what you want to say, and then just start working with a talk track. And then you'll eventually be able to find yourself cutting things down to get to bullet points. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but I mean, it was so helpful to be able to see the entire outline and then be able to kind of really notice it break down.
Well, give yourself more credit. I think if there's a 25-year-old listening right now that doesn't like public speaking, that like has some very real skills, but doesn't know how to speak, like that's a pretty tactical, simple, but very effective method, right?
Yeah.
Like write it like you're going to write an essay. If you went to college, you can do that, right? You don't need to figure out your bullet point, your 3 bullet points, because writing is thought, if you think about it. You get to that as a conclusion of thought 1, then 2, then 3, with the bullet points being, it might be the 4th or 5th rendition of the paragraph you're at, right? And not everyone knows to think like that. Like before I do a presentation, I sort of outline what is the story I'm trying to tell here. And it generally starts with, some sort of an introduction, some sort of like vulnerability or credibility or joke or statement. And then I go to a pain or a challenge. Why are we here? What's not working here? Yeah. And then I go to the solution. And then at some point there's a conclusion where I'll ask for the business or a next step or something. But that's my general thought pattern. Yeah. And then each one of those has a paragraph or a specific series of points I want to get across. And I don't start with, now I'm talking about my product. These are the 3 points about my product. It led to that from the pain, right? And so I'm just going through my process, and I've had to learn that over 10 years of selling technology or selling stuff, right? Like a lot of business or any kind of role where you're in, any kind of business is telling a story. And I love what your boss said about writing it down, like using punctuation. Just start somewhere. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, just it applied back to another thing she taught me about how to build a presentation deck. I mean, going from, and this is very similar to the talk track, of going from the macro view to the micro view. I mean, when you're writing that first paragraph and trying to do your talk track, put the ums. Put the commas, put the pauses that you would naturally think to yourself would be in there after you read it. You don't have to be this robot where you're saying like, this is how we'll do this and this is how we'll do this. Like you got to make it flow a little bit better, and because that's how you talk at the end of the day. And then consequently structuring a deck or a presentation. God knows you know this well, but like you said, I mean, looking at the overall goal, looking at the overarching, points that we're trying to achieve, and then going into the specifics after that, and how we're going to tackle it, or how we're going to solve this challenge, or how we didn't solve this challenge, are imperative, I think.
Yeah. I just imagine you sitting at that table or even on the phone across from, the yogurt client, and they're peppering you with questions and like feeling like you have to have all the answers, or they're judging me. Sometimes with communication, it's just like a quiet confidence. Answer the question, be ready to back it up, and don't feel the need to like have your ego win the conversation. Like you ask the question, that's the answer. In the context of what you said, like I would imagine it's, well, this is how we normally do it. This is the normal ROI that we see or whatever. you know, and like we're willing to be flexible, like, and stop. And like I've actually had to learn that tonality too. For instance, I led a panel last week and I listened to the recording, and I feel like I do this a lot. My standard tone is like I have to earn the right. Oh, what do you think about this? And like I almost like tone up the end of my sentence.
Yeah.
But when I hear myself back, I'm like, damn, like it doesn't sound confident, or like it sounds like I'm trying to ask for the business at all times.
Yeah.
And I think there's ways that I can take that feedback for myself and, you know, like just be a better, more confident speaker.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, you know, I obviously still have a lot to learn when it comes to speaking, you know, and speaking confidently, but you know, again, the more you do it, the more you just practice. You'll find your voice with it. I mean, and the other thing I learned a long time ago that I'll always tell people, you know, who work under me or work with me who are a little bit, you know, less experienced with, is that never be afraid to say you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, not everybody has all the answers. Being able to say that's a great question. I will check with my team. I will get back to you. That's never going to be a bad thing. And if somebody gives you shit for that, then they're not worth your time.
Yeah. I think people, especially in this, I go back to the anxiety thing. I think people feel like I'm the specialist for this product, or I'm new. So like no one can know that I'm new, or that I'm a specialist that doesn't know the answer. And they get freaked out by that. I never agreed with that you have to know all the answers at one point. And if clients need that from you, I think they're being a little unrealistic. I think you need to be competent, where you can say, generally in this type of scenario, this is the kind of outcome we want. But this, like micro to macro, macro to micro, right? Like that's a tiny little detailed question that like, just give me a couple of days to get back to you on.
Yeah. I mean, and especially in the day, you know, that we live in now, and the past year and a half that we've had, people should be able to handle a couple of days of waiting, you know.
Yeah. So. It's funny. I mean, I feel like just in the last couple of weeks, I'm finally starting to see people be outside riding their bikes, you know, walking to work, walking from work. But I'm on TikTok a lot. I love TikTok nowadays. And there's a lot of like content, probably just being thrown to me because that's what I like, about like corporate culture and like the absurdity of come back to the office for the culture. But it's like the culture, and it's just someone sitting at our desk among 50 other desks with no one in them, right? And there's just such a difference between what I see now versus 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's my first job out of college was in a full cubicle, and I never looked at anybody. I talked to people, but like you had to like get up and move away to do that. Now, I mean, I sit at my desk on a Tuesday or Thursday, and I have 10 people like right in front of me looking at me. So yeah, I like it more.
Yeah. Is Coyote all the way back in the office, or is there some sort of semblance of hybrid or what?
I'm not sure. I think it's. I mean, I would imagine it's some sort of hybrid. I mean, our team is pretty, you know, is pretty flexible. Like I have one of my guys who I work with every day. He's come in like twice this year. Generally, he just stays at home, and he has very, you know, his reasons, and it's fine. I don't care. I mean, he does great work, and doesn't matter to me as long as you're being communicative and, you know, everybody can work together well.
So you manage a team?
Yes, I do. It's
nice.
Yeah, there's not many people on it right now, but we're trying to get more people.
So let me throw this back at you. Like, here I am saying I'm worried about my manager. Okay, so the situation is he might pose a question to the team, and then 3 or 4 people respond in Slack, which is a virtual messaging tool, right? And I get worried that if I don't have my work phone on me or not in front of my computer, that if he doesn't see my response within a certain amount of time, that like he might judge me personally, or that I might be seen as not effective, right? How would you answer that? Or like, what's your perspective as a manager on that kind of anxiety if I'm working from home?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple things about that. My last boss who I worked with, I also had that kind of anxiety, even though she was not that type of person. I think so. Coming from from your position, I would just say one thing that I used to do was just kind of not. I would X out the my manager on Slack.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that would always freak me out was like I would log into Slack or whatever messaging service, and I would immediately check if she was there and say, "Oh fuck, so she's there." Like I have to make sure I'm in front of my computer. One day I was like, she does her own thing. I do my own thing. I'm just gonna if she reaches out to me, great. If not, that's fine too. So I crossed her out of there, and I never saw her name up there again unless she would ping me, and it actually made me feel a lot less stressed from an everyday perspective. It's a little weird, but and I think the other thing too is that, again, especially as evidence the past 2 years, I mean, we're doing everything we can with the lives and time that we have. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody should feel empowered. I mean, and as a manager, I say this to everybody. If you feel like you wanna dip out at 3 p.m. or like 2 p.m. or you tell me like I am just not feeling it today, I don't care. Like long as overall your work is getting done and you're attentive to at certain points and times where you're most needed, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop anybody from doing it, because I did laundry today at 1:00. I mean,
yeah. What's funny is I think my manager would look at it just like you. Like there's not even been a conversation, but it's almost like my own internal. It's like we're all being. It's like, at least for me, I feel like I'm still living the office environment. I'm not sitting at my desk. Mm-hmm. If I'm not sitting at my desk for 5 hours straight, which sometimes I'll do laundry, then I'll go on a walk, then I'll go to the grocery. Like I have no meetings at that moment, so I'm going to do those things. Mm-hmm. I'm almost just trying to figure it out like on my own. But what I'm saying is that it's kind of self-made. I recognize that it's changing the paradigm for myself. Like I love what you said about. One day I was just like, okay, I'm going to change this mentality. And that was that.
Yeah. You know what? And the other thing I'll say to you too, is that, obviously I know you well, but your anxiety over that is evidence of you being a really good worker and a really dedicated person. I think there are I have managed people in the past, and I have worked with people in the past who, I mean, they fuck off for hours, and you don't hear from them, and you can barely ever get in touch with them. And then when you do get in touch with them, they're pretty short and not really saying anything. And again, there could be instances where they're dealing with their own thing, they're dealing with other stuff. But in general, I think the people who succeed the most and the people who, are some of the most respected people that I know from a business perspective are the ones who, they dedicate themselves to things like you are with work,
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, man. That is something I care about, is like continually pushing. And I think there's a way to look at it without the anxiety, but I care. So
yeah, I get you. I feel the same way a lot. So
yeah. So any big plans this summer, kind of wrapping up? You in case you got any weddings, or you got any trips to Ireland, or New York back again, or what?
Yeah, I mean we might be going to Europe in July or late June. She handles all of the logistics and scheduling because I'm terrible with that stuff. But going back to your point earlier, I'm doubling down on some new types of weightlifting. I love lifting. I don't think I'm that. I think it's consistency is the biggest thing with it, but
totally.
I probably think a lot of things I can get better at with. But I started swimming, which I really enjoy. So
good for you. I'd love to learn more about that, because I like to cycle and I like to run, but of the triathlon sports, swimming is where I have the least amount of experience. Is there anything about that you did to get started, or what made you want to do that? How easy is it to level up in that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I ran track in high school, and I've run a lot over the past number of years. And I always do some form of cardio to warm up before a workout. A lot of people will tell you to never do that before a workout, but I don't know, when you get to a point where you wake up and your lower back is tight, I don't really want to start lifting heavy weights when my body doesn't feel ready. So I like doing that stuff. And yeah, I think it was something along the lines of, this was a couple months ago, actually last month, where I went to the gym, and my gym around here is really good, for a lot of reasons, but the entire thing was either running or cycling. And I like cycling too. I don't do it as much, but I don't know. I've lost my interest in running overall, unless it's sprinting, and that takes a lot of energy out of you, especially for a warm up. So I started looking into swimming, and essentially all I really did was just I'm going to a new gym now, and I walked in there the first day, and I just did regular freestyle, laps, three here and back, and then a couple, probably really bad breaststrokes and one really bad backstroke. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That was a good start. And now I essentially do pretty much the same thing, although I have a little bit more of a structure with it. But I really enjoy it. It's the thing I love most about it is that I always feel like when I'm running or when I'm cycling, it's a good fat burner, but obviously a lot of that stuff does burn muscle, and I don't eat enough. So when I do that stuff, I feel like I'm not getting as good of a workout, like fully. But with the water, and swimming, obviously it's much more of a physically intense workout from a resistance standpoint. So I felt it a lot more from a muscle standpoint. So I like it.
Did you learn how to breaststroke in high school or anything, or is it all just self-taught?
Yeah, it's all self-taught. YouTube. So
nice.
I've looked at a few things with that. I actually was in the pool the other day, and I don't have goggles. I just didn't think about it. And this one woman, was swimming near me. I could immediately tell as soon as she got in the pool, she's an incredible swimmer. And then as I was leaving, she's like, "Excuse me, did you swim that whole time without goggles?" I said, "Yeah, I probably should invest in some." She goes, "No, I just, that's just really impressive. I'm really surprised that you were able to stay in the pool for like 20 minutes and not wear goggles." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, but I appreciate it." So it was nice.
Did you start with 20 minutes as your time, or did you just have 10 minutes? What was your first swimming session?
Yeah, I did 10 minutes, and then I went to 15, and then the last 5 sessions I've done have been about 20 minutes. And I don't think I'm going to go over 20 minutes at the time, but
what I've heard is that your form is really important for longevity. So
okay.
Do you feel like you have competency in your form to swim correctly for 20 minutes?
Probably not. I think my form in freestyles is fine, but based on what I've researched for breaststroke and the one time I tried backstroke, I could probably use some work. So I might join a class too.
I'm actually glad that you said that, because I'll be closer to that than perfect form. And so if you can do it for 20 and you're really, you even said it, I've been swimming, I could tell that you were excited about picking up that new skill, and I would love to get there. I belong to a gym that has a pool too, so I'll report back to you in a couple months.
Nice. Yeah, man. It's a good time. I like it.
Cool. I wanted to talk about Lord of the Rings and some other stuff, some memes. Yeah. Everyone I talk to, I ask a specific question. So I guess for you, it would be, what's your favorite meme of all time?
Oh man, I'm still old school. I love Bad Luck Brian. That guy, those things were great. Just that whole period of Velociraptor with the stupid green or rainbow colored backgrounds with the random clip art print on the front with the big impact letters. I love that stuff. But Bad Luck Brian, I actually saw a thing on him the other day, and the guy, they did a whole segment on him on some stupid Instagram page I follow, but just looking at it, goes in ocean with small cut, eaten by a shark, or don't worry, Brian. No one, no one gets hurt doing this. Dies.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like it's great. Like puts all of his money into crypto, into Bitcoin, crashes. Like stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, unlimited scenarios. I think for me, it's the teacher, like the really like 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh yeah. The teacher I love that one too. That was great. Yeah, I mean they're all great. Some of the newer ones have been really funny, but
oh, dude, like it's incredible what sometimes I just laugh at the thought of the internet, like the thought of someone painstakingly taking the time to take a meme that's already 3 layers of stupid, right? Like builds on other things, and then they bring it a step further into like really dark humor or like something really obscure. What was that one? It was like Ross from Friends, but it was like acid, like he was on like really like a bad trip or something.
Yeah.
It was oh my god.
Yeah, it was like Arthur characters, and it was broken Buster or like beaten down Buster or something like that. Oh yeah, I mean that stuff is great. I mean, I saw one the other day of like a dog. It's the background. It's like the silhouette of a dog. And like there's a clear picture of the Vietnam War, and it just says above it, when a dog hears the doorbell ring. It's like it's so stupid, but just so funny.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's the transparent, like it's like his soldiers have died or something. And
yeah. Flashbacks to just crazed times. Yeah.
Great, I feel like we were on the fringe of it, like we were in the beginning of it. I mean, everyone says that about music or movies or whatever, but there really was like a transition where it became mainstream to create and like memes. I mean, I remember Fuck Jerry when that was a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just specific accounts had like millions, hundreds of millions of followers, and it's like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
But that just shows the power of the scroll. People scroll all day.
I'm with you, man. I fully believe that we were at the beginning of the meme world that exploded, and now I mean they're getting really sophisticated. I like them a lot, but I do love the old stuff too.
For sure. Well, I know that Carla, my girlfriend, really enjoyed meeting you and Casey, and would love to maybe double date sometime or just years or whatever. Yeah. Sometime May, sometime June, if you guys are already traveling, let's get together. But thanks for coming on the podcast, dude. Really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for having me. I will reach out about some dates, and thanks for having me, man. It was a great time.